All right, hey, welcome back, everyone. So, up until this point, we've been walking through these elements of the ever important strategy making, strategy executing process. Basically, this framework that we've identified here that walks us through the critical tasks of where do we start and where should we hopefully end up in this entire process of strategy. We are obviously bringing this forward in a very simplified manner. There are a lot of nuances to this framework and what actually entails each of these steps. But at this point, what we are most interested in is making sure that you take a clear understanding of just what this process is all about, and the rest of the details we'll be getting to later. So we've already talked about why developing a strategic vision, mission, and core values is important, as those things are going to kind of be that foundation that we set in order to determine what type of strategic objectives we need to set for that organization, and how we use those objectives to inform and motivate the strategy that we then craft, hoping that we will make that in alignment with those chosen strategies, right? Because it only makes sense that if our strategies are roadmap for what we're trying to accomplish, that it is aligned with those objectives or those clear goals that we have set that we want to achieve at our organization. So once we've gone through these first three tasks, we get to our fourth step of this process, which is essentially just implementing and executing that chosen strategy that we have come up with in step three. So what does this process really look like? Well, long answer short, is going to look different for a lot of different firms. Essentially, it can look as different as your strategies can look, right? But this process, just to simplify it, it really is all about exactly what it says. It's all about kicking that strategy into action and trying to execute it best that we can. So essentially during this process, what we're trying to do is we're trying to convert that plan we come up in step three into actual action. And we are trying to throw this thing out in the world in order to test some really important things. This is kind of our trial of the strategy, where we first actually gather data that may be able to tell us how well in reality that strategy actually works. Because up until this point, it's just been a conceptual idea. It's not been something that we could gather data on or actually figure out how effective it is in real life. So here's our step where we're actually putting it to the test. So we throw this thing out here, and depending on what the objectives of our strategy really are, we're going to want to see, like, how well does this strategy actually motivate and direct the kind of change we're going for? Is it something that's actually motivating the people that work at the organization, and is it causing them to align their behaviors with the chosen paths that we have taken for the organization, what we're trying to accomplish? Is it something that's regularly helping strengthen or build new competencies and capabilities that are going to be necessary to carry us to this outcome we're going for? Is it creating and supporting a climate within our organization that supports and pushes that strategy forward effectively? Is it something that's actually leading, most critically, hopefully, are we meeting or beating the performance targets we set for ourselves when we implement this strategy? Does it actually lead us to the things we are going for, right? So in a larger sense, we're also interested, whether or not it works proficiently in just one area, or is this something that is a broadly applied, effective thing that is working throughout all of our fronts of our organization? If you can remember anything important about this step, it's just that this is basically where, we put up or shut up. We're throwing this conceptual idea out there. We're actually testing to see, does it work? So it'd be great for us to have a little insight if basically the entire intent of this step is to see, does it work? How do we even judge whether or not it works, right? Well, it's actually fairly simple. There are three basic questions that we can ask, and if we go in depth in these and we try to gather data that help us determine, the correct answer to these three questions, These will give us great insight as to whether or not that chosen strategy is truly aligned and is really leading to completing and achieving those objectives we've set. So first and foremost, by implementing this new strategy, have we been able to, meet or exceed those strategic and financial performance targets that we set? Do we hit them? Pretty simple. Is what we've set out to do, are we achieving it? That's a great, that's a great display and signal of whether or not we have good execution of our strategy and whether or not it's actually working the way we conceived it to. Second, is our firm making good progress in achieving operational excellence? So being up there in that upper echelon of the best running operationally like organizations within our industry. Are we, if we're not there yet, are we slowly on our way? Are we rapidly on our way? How does that look? So this is not just like, are we meeting our internal goals, but how do we look externally against the other people we compete against, right? Are we making good progress in trying to achieve that type of excellence? Depends on how we measure that type of excellence, which is something that we've done hopefully long before this in influencing the steps of this process. And then finally, are we moving expeditiously along our directional path, right? Are we moving fast enough that we are happy with the pace at which we are advancing? It's all right if we, don't have a lofty strategic goal to get there right away. But if we do have a distinct timeline that hopefully we've set earlier on, as we said, if we're getting there, are we getting there fast enough for, what's going to satiate our goals? Some of us are happy with small or consistent small growth, and some of us want really rapid growth. And we say we need to get up there and we need to be moving faster based off of the pace of change, all these different things. We got to get there faster. That is a personal decision we make in our firm, but one that is very salient to us, determining whether or not our execution, is adequate with the conceptual strategy we've thrown forward. So essentially, we review these three questions. We come up with, hopefully a positive answer to all these. And if we can, we know that this strategy we came up with is more than a concept. It is now a practical element of our business, and we have a good pathway moving forward to accomplish those things that we're hopefully setting out to accomplish.